All right, welcome to another episode of the Ryan and Goodman podcast. He's Bob Ryan. I'm Jeff Goodman, and we're in October. And Bob, October might just be the best sporting month of the year. I mean, we got everything, right? As we're recording this on Tuesday morning here, we've got the Red Sox Yankees wild card play-in, whatever you want to call it, game. So baseball's heating up. We've got preseason NBA basketball, which isn't great, but it means that the regular season is around the horizon. Same thing with hockey, and NFL is in full bloom here. So we've got everything going on. I think that's what makes it the best month of the year.
I think if you're an all-around sports fan, you love this month, and absolutely. Now April's good too at times, but the thing about difference is that this is the culmination of the baseball season with the most important games. Whereas in April, unless your whole life is baseball and you don't care about other sports, baseball is the background music to the NBA, NHL playoffs, at that point in time. And of course, football has become a 12-month obsession. And it's the month of the draft, and the NFL draft has become one of the great sporting events in America. Let's face it, it is. And hey, more power to them. This goes back to Pete Rozelle. Now this is a discussion for another day. But October, yes, this is and today we're just coming out of a Brady hangover now. A couple of days later, and all kinds of good football stories. But anyway, we're interested in basketball here.
But before we go to that, before we go to that, I think the world might want to hear your views on Mac Jones and Tom Brady and that whole deal. So I was more impressed, certainly, with the Patriots than anything else, and more impressed probably with Mac Jones than anything else, how he handled himself in that circumstance with all that pressure and at home going against a legend, the greatest quarterback ever who played, wore that uniform. Are you now like a full-fledged believer in Mac Jones, or was this just kind of the start and you want to temper your expectations?
Well, I'm more inclined to think that he's the real deal, that they're going to be very happy that he's a guy that you can win with. My criteria is not whether you're elite or go to the Hall of Fame, but quarterbacks, can you win with him? Can with the right other circumstances, could he actually be a Super Bowl participant? That's the thing, and I think that he's on that track, that he doesn't make mistakes. He comes with all the experts like his poise, they like his decision making, they like it, and all that, and the arm strength is sufficient. He does. I think he's acquitted himself very well, and of course, going into that game, he had higher marks than any of the other rookie quarterbacks at all,
which isn't saying much.
No, but then again, on Zach Wilson played well on Sunday, and gave them some hope. But anyway, yes, I'm happy with him, and that game, in fact, there was a good thing that was kind of got buried under the radar. One play that Millie was very significant, and they've explored it in the paper today. That is the unsportsmanlike kind of penalty called on Matthew Slater, who ran out of bounds, which happens as the gunner on the punt return, came in, forced a fumble, but it was overturned because he had not. Apparently, the rule was you got to make an immediate return. Yeah. It's very nebulous. That's what they pointed out. It's all in the eyes of the ref. And Slater, who is arguably the best gunner in the NFL for the last 10 years, and said he's only, he thought it was a bum call, which affected the game. They would have had the ball at that point. Who knows? Anyway, the game, it wasn't an all-time game, but it was good enough to live up to the hype.
It's good at the end.
Keep you interested. The Patriots were completely competitive, and then it comes down to a dramatic ending. Right. That would have been one of the great kicks. It would have been one of the 2 or 3 most famous kicks in Patriot history. After Vinatieri's best half dozen, and it would have been big. And I don't and of course the great armchair debate, should they have gone for it? And, it's a real pro and con. Even if you kick the field goal, there's plenty of time left for Brady, who all he would have needed was a field goal, not and there's plenty of time. He's done that, countless times. But still, 4th and 3, I don't know.
Either way. I'm good with either way on that.
If 56 in the rain, and the reason it isn't good because it hits the upright, that had the distance, So,
All right,
anyway,
we'll move to some hoops here.
yes.
And the biggest news of the week since we last talked, Bob, and I think it's crazy to say this, is Andrew Wiggins got the shot. He got the vaccine and he's on the court now. And now we can kind of move forward with criticizing or crucifying or whatever people have been doing with Andrew Wiggins, trying to get more information. He got more information, did his research, I guess.
No, he did it. He said because he didn't want to lose the money. It's his job.
His research was all about looking at his paycheck and seeing how much money he was going to lose.
A living. And you know, and obviously he's a bright young man and he could earn a living, but not with the financial reward that he gets playing basketball. We all know that. No, he's unhappy. He's a very unhappy camper, and about this, and he didn't want to do it, and he's all right. So he's now telling us he had it and it was mild, and he's worried about 10 years down the road, and he did it, and that means that the Warriors, all right, they're completely assembled on paper now. We don't know how. I don't want to get ahead of the story. They're back. They're assembled. We're going to talk Eastern Conference, I know. So, but yes, that's a big story. And the other ongoing story, which is Eastern Conference.
And the only other part of that, Bob, is we still don't know whether Kyrie has followed suit and gotten the shot or not. He didn't play, but I think the whole team didn't really play in the first preseason game. So we weren't able to really ascertain whether or not Kyrie followed Wiggs and got the vaccine, or he's still holding out.
Right. That's the open question. That's number one. And two great questions in the East. And the other, of course, is the ongoing soap opera in Philadelphia, which was the raging story for the whole off season. And now we're here. Games are being played and money's at stake. And they've thrown down the gauntlet. They put $8.5 in escrow. They're going to deduct $360,000 for each of the exhibitions that he's healthy for and isn't playing there for, which means that they had in the exhibition season he could be out $1.4 million. So, $1.4
million. It sounds like a lot of money, Bob, but Ben Simmons is due to make $33,003,936 this year. So it's kind of a drop in the bucket for Ben Simmons. I don't think he's worried all that much about missing the preseason.
Yeah,
I think at this point he's going to stick to his guns, and certainly Rich Paul is going to stick to his guns and say, you know what, we're not playing there. It's not going to happen, and really play kind of a game of what do you call it when when the two cards going? What am I forgetting? When they go at each other and who's gonna move?
Yeah, I know. Not them Derby, but whatever. Yeah,
with Daryl Morey here, and basically saying like, hey, we'll call your bluff because you're not going to go into the season with our boy George Niang playing 35 minutes a game or somebody else playing 35. You need more. You've got to make a move for Ben Simmons soon if you're Philly, because you got to figure out this team, this roster for Doc Rivers. And ultimately, you've got good enough players that you should be competing for one of the tops. I mean, they were the number one, last year. They were terrific in the regular season.
All off season, we said what I said to you, and what is the market for this guy? For the millionth and first time, there has never been a story like this. There has never been a player of consequence like this. A player who is a 3-time All-Star, I believe, and a 2-time All-Defensive team, who has obvious skills, obvious high-level skills, great finisher, who has this glaring hole in his game, and actually two, because they're separate to me. The free throw shooting and the absolute refusal to shoot that he reared its ugly head in the playoffs this year. So if you trade for him, is this before or after you sit him down and say, can we have a talk about your game? Or are you not ever going to have that talk and you're going to live with this game of his?
I mean, I'm sure like we talked about, Brett Brown, they probably had their talks with him, Bob. Brett Brown and Doc Rivers. And
you would think after his rookie year, the thing was, you're going to the gym, we're locking it up, we're having an armed guard, you're staying there 3 hours a day, you're shooting jump shots and you're shooting free throws. But obviously, if that happened, it didn't bear fruit. And if it didn't happen, I don't know why. So I don't get this. And how he got this far is one of the great stories. Anyway, what is his value? You know, and it's open. It's still an open.
Your value is the top trade offer you're going to get in return, right? That obviously Daryl Morey isn't comfortable with whatever it is so far. My guess is it's going to be, a decent player, not an all-star, and a bunch of picks. That's what I think you can get for Ben. I think some organization will say, you know what, we'll mortgage our future, especially, to me, a small market team. That's where Ben Simmons, to me, will be headed. I feel like it's a small market team that knows they're not going to be able to get a superstar any other way. They can upgrade their current talent and go from a good player to an all-star in Ben Simmons, and they'll have to give up some picks in order to do it.
Well, I know one of the teams that's been thrown out there is Sacramento, and a name that gets thrown out is Buddy Hield.
Yeah.
Is that the kind of level player that you think is the starting point to go with those picks, or you got to go higher than that?
I mean, I think you got to give
I
him.
I don't know.
The other part is, Bob, Sacramento, does he really fit? You have De'Aaron Fox, who needs the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
You just got Tyrese Halliburton, who's now in his second year, who's kind of a combo guard. He shoots it pretty well, but he's good with the ball in his hands. And you just got Davion Mitchell at the top of the draft, who's also a point guard.
Yeah.
So it would have to be like Buddy Hield and one of those guys.
One of those guys. Yeah. One of those guys. All right. Well, once again, the open question, someday it'll be resolved, you think, right? I mean, how much longer are we going to be having this conversation? How many times?
No, I mean, it's got to be done in the next few weeks, Bob. I mean, within the next few weeks, Ben Simmons has got to have a new home because, again, I think it's best for both sides. The longer this goes, if you're Daryl Morey, the less leverage you have, and you don't have a lot of leverage today.
No, I don't see how he does. Oh, well, it's
all right. So let's.
Hey, it's been good. It's given us something to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, while we're on the Sixers, we might as well hit the East, the Eastern Conference right now, and let's start with this. Who's the favorite in the East this year, Bob? Is it Milwaukee, who just won the NBA title? Is it Brooklyn, who, if they had been healthy and had their three horsemen, they probably might have won the NBA title, but they were down two of them for the most part because James Harden was not healthy and Kyrie was Kyrie and nowhere to be found. Who's the favorite first?
Well, because of the uncertainty surrounding the Brooklyn basketball team and a certain point guard who can't stay out of the news in any which way. So I don't know. Is he going to be playing? Is he going to, because he's not playing without the jab, and I don't think, and not playing in certain cities, including his own.
He'll get listen. He's going to have to get.
Well, just Wiggins finally did. Yes, we're right. But so the brinksmanship, the games are being played. I know they're exhibition games, but the games are being played. The brinksmanship has started. It's heightened. So yeah, if he's healthy and which, by the way, is always a big if at any given season.
Yep.
Yeah. So now we fast forward. If in April they're sufficiently healthy, they've negotiated, and I don't care what their seeding is, but I assume they're going to have a decent year, win at least 55 games. I would think if they're, that's a kind of a floor figure for a team of that skill. I think, we're going to be ranking them as having a real chance, but we don't know if he's going to be healthy or who's going to be healthy. That's all right. But all things equal, I still, they can't be judged though. They can't. They're not until we know. So we can be back to nothing wrong with the defending champions, right? There's no great, any great what if there.
Well, and they really didn't do a heck of a lot because they didn't need to. What they do? They re-signed Bobby Portis. I think they traded for Grayson out. They didn't do a whole lot. They lost PJ Tucker and Bryn Forbes. I actually think that PJ Tucker loss is gonna hurt because he gave him that toughness.
Right,
you saw him guarding.
That reminded me of that. He's one of those important auxiliary figures.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very.
That's interesting. Interesting to see what, it's hard to imagine how young Giannis still is and what he's accomplished in a few short years, how far he's come. And is there more to be seen, or is this what we saw in the playoffs, the refinement of his game, the ability to calibrate the nature of his game, going to the basket much more opportunely and not trying to show the world I can shoot threes, but still have the ability to make a three, enough once, but he's never going to be in the top percentage 3-point shooters,
No,
and
just make enough. Just
be
make
like,
enough.
be like LeBron, frankly.
Right.
That's exactly, to me, the level of 3-point shooting he should aspire to and can get. But that was a frightening force, and better than the 2 previous years. They didn't have any wall that was holding him back in the playoffs last year.
So again, the Bucks are the Bucks. They lost a couple. Again, PJ Tucker. The team that I thought did the most. Now, again, they were disappointing last year, was the Miami Heat.
Yes.
You got Jimmy Butler back. He signed our boy Duncan Robinson to a big deal, which is great. He's making all that money. They add PJ
You're buying
Tucker.
next time we see you, Duncan, I'll tell you right now.
Man, no question. No, he's buying at Popovers in Portsmouth. PJ Tucker, they bring in, add some toughness, some defense. Victor Oladipo at short money. They bring him in and obviously they trade for Kyle Lowry. I mean, they're going to be
very interesting, right? I want to see how the recipe gets put together.
Totally.
Want to see how it's put together. We know they got a coach. Any questions I'm ever exposed to have long since been answered. The only question is, you're starting to prepare your Hall of Fame speech someday. So that they got a quality coach, and they got leadership at the top. God knows, and yes, they're going. I think they're excited down there. I think they're really gearing up and for something good.
I mean, think about this, Bob. In terms of the toughness factor, if you're 1 to 10 on the toughness meter, Jimmy Butler 10, right? Kyle Lowry 10, PJ Tucker 10,
11.
Udonis Haslem on the bench, who's coming back for his 85th year.
I know that's
awesome though.
Interesting phenomenon. I still going back. I was there in that NCAA championship game. You probably were too, or 2000, and he was a freshman who showed up that night and against the Flintstones, right? Yeah. And my God, that was 21 years ago. It'll be 22 when the next NCAA tournament rolls around.
I don't know why they don't just make him a coach. I don't understand this. He doesn't play. I mean, even as a coach, you can throw him in practice. You're creating an extra roster spot.
I was going to say, he obviously practices, but you could do that. So
right. I don't get why he's not just a coach. Just make him a coach. He doesn't play all year.
But they are certainly intriguing on paper. They're very intriguing.
No doubt.
And we got Atlanta, who rose up to be a real thorny, nuisance team last year.
Yeah.
As the Knicks found out. And
they brought back John Collins. That was the big thing with Atlanta, was would they pay enough to keep John Collins? And he was kind of a guy that was, sort of coming off the bench and a role guy last year, turned down a ton of money. They still spent a good amount of money to keep him. And I think they got another young guy. And they got so many of them. The Kevin Huerters of the world, the Cam Reddishes. DeAndre Hunter was hurt last year in the playoffs. Didn't even play. They drafted Jalen Johnson from Duke, who was really good in the summer league. He fell all the way to 20th in the draft because all these red flags. Remember, he left Duke middle of the year, just up and left, wasn't happy with his role, whatever. And I think they might have gotten a steal. What Atlanta has is a lot of pieces that I think if Travis Schlenk is smart, their GM, he can maybe make a trade here and try to figure out, okay, how can I get really good trade value for a couple of these young pieces and maybe bring in another really good sidekick to Trae Young.
And they got one, speaking of which, they got a closer.
Yeah.
They have a closer. That kid is totally for real.
Way better than I thought he'd ever be, Bob. I never thought this, ever. I mean, I remember sitting with his father. We were in Greenville, South Carolina, the night before Trae Young was playing in the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about the NBA part of it. And it sounded like at that point they were pretty clear that, he was going to go to the NBA after that. But we were both talking and there was serious concern about the size. And his father was even saying hey, it's going to be hard for him at his size in the NBA. It may take a little while. Well, we were all wrong about that because Trae Young has been way better.
No, you look at him today. If you just saw him out of context, you'd go, "Oh God, he's going to get killed. They're going to run into a pick. He's going to be in the it's in the middle of next week." But no, he's obviously figured out how to play this game at that level, take care of himself, and he's
I wonder how the new rules, Bob, these new rules that they're implementing, where you basically can't jump into a guy and create a foul. I mean, that's going to affect Trae, Harden, Steph.
Mostly Harden.
Yeah,
I'd order it, and I rank it Harden by far number one.
Yeah,
I mean, going to be very interesting. Now he's very smart,
right?
And he won't like to make the adjustment, but he'll stop. Yeah, he'll stop doing it. It'll anger him because God, wouldn't you love to have the data on how many times it got him to the line?
So many
in his career. I would love the data. It would be staggering. And
right.
But
he does it on I feel like Trae and Steph do it so much when they jump. Like Harden does it at every turn. He doesn't need to jump to create that kind of fake contact. And again, it'll be interesting to see too how much bitching and complaining. There's so much of it from the players anyway. How much more this adds to it. But maybe it won't. Maybe a lot of the other players will be happy because the majority of them don't do it.
I would think that more people will be happy about it than
Me too.
Unhappy about it. But we know who's going to be the most unhappy about it. The greatest exponent of it is the man in Brooklyn. Yes. But I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten about that. But that is going to be interesting.
It is.
Let's keep your ear to the ground during the exhibitions to see what the early returns are.
Who else before we get? Let's touch on the New York Knickerbockers.
Knicks. Yeah, the Knicks are. They think they're going to be good, by the way. I mean, I monitor the New York papers daily. I do.
Yeah. What's your take on these guys? I like what they did in the offseason for the most part. Listen, they brought in Evan Fournier. They paid a lot of money to get him.
Yeah.
But they added that shooter, that veteran, 4 years, $78 million. They brought back Derrick Rose, Alex Burks, Nerlens Noel at decent money, not crazy money. And then they brought in our guy Kemba for short money, 2 years, $9 million a year. I like it. I like it. And I love what Derrick Rose said. I don't know if you saw this, but Derrick Rose was basically asked about his role coming off the bench. And he said, I'm coming off the bench. Kemba's the starter.
I did see it. And I think I take it at face value. I think he's very realistic. Because once again, let me get this one out of the way early. The injuries that have prevented him from being a true all-time great, which I think he was going to be, is so sad to me. I remain adamant that I have never seen a player specifically like him, and that when I first saw him in college, and the two things about him that are extraordinary, somehow or other he appears to have late life on his fastball. He seemed to have some light end of explosion to the basket in a way that was different than anybody I had ever seen. There's, I'm saying I didn't see faster guys or as fast guys, but there was something about the way he could finish that was unique to him. And then the extraordinary ability to move laterally in the air, and to a degree that I'd never seen.
He was a freak.
Never seen anybody like it, and he lost that. And he still had a career, but it's not the career he should have had. If that's a shame. A lot of guys get hurt. A lot of guys say that about. I'm just being specific about this one guy. That he was very, very special.
Yep.
Anyway, I think he's resigned to who he is at this point. I think he's happy to be in New York and with this team. He seemed to be accommodating himself quite well last year. And I like what he said. I saw that. They feel there's a lot of ballyhoo, because it's been so long in New York. Here's the thing, that they haven't won in 48 years. It'll be 49 years when the playoffs start next year. They had one little burst from the day that they traded for Dave DeBusschere and traded Walt Bellamy and Howard Comives for Dave DeBusschere just before Christmas in 1968 until they lost to the Celtics in 1974 with DeBusschere injured with a torn stomach muscle.
Really?
Reed was on his last legs. DeBusschere and Celtics pissed all over him, frankly, in New York in that series. Okay, it was over. So they had a 6-year run, 9-0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Of greatness that is still the thing that people are associating with Nick basketball. Then they had a little run, 15 years ago.
Yep.
But they have only won twice since the league came into being in 75 years. It's hard to believe. And they haven't won in 49 years. And they keep filling the arena, no matter what they do for ticket prices, no matter what they charge for beer, no matter how much people hate the Dolans, they fill that place, right?
Yes.
They fill that place.
Yes. It's the Garden. They're New Yorkers. They're hungry.
They are. So people are grabbing at every tidbit of possible good news. All right. So I'm looking at the team. And so much of the hype, it depended on Kemba staying healthy, which is very tough.
I mean, some combo of the good thing is Kemba doesn't need to play 35 minutes because you got Derrick Rose. So they can split 48. They should split it evenly. They should literally be at 24 apiece for Kemba and Derrick Rose to save both of them.
All right. That's a good point. All right. Now,
Julius Randle, is he good enough to be a superstar in this league? Because to be honest, you don't win without superstars. He to me, I've always loved Julius Randle. Always, from high school, AAU. He was kind of in that group with Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins coming out that year. I remember those three being, I'm not sure they're all the same year, but they all were playing against each other. And I liked Randle the best of the three by far because he was super tough. He was versatile. I felt like he could really step out and make threes, and they didn't really play him that way early in the NBA, but now he's found kind of the place for him. Almost like I equated in some ways to Isaiah Thomas in Boston, where they needed him. They needed him, and he was given the freedom, right? Like Isaiah Thomas wasn't that good, as shown. I know a lot of people say because of the injuries, whatever, but it was the perfect storm, the perfect scenario for Isaiah Thomas to thrive because there weren't other guys that could do what he did and make plays off the bounce on those Celtics teams. Julius Randle, it's kind of similar, right? Like RJ Barrett's a good player, but he's young and hasn't proven he can shoot it. So like Julius Randle walked into the perfect situation for him in New York, but is he good enough to carry a team? He obviously they overachieved last year. Is he good enough to take the next jump? I got it written down on my little notepad here. Randle follow-up ? And I think that's agreeing. That's speaking what you're saying. I don't. He became a star last year, but there's stars and there's the guys, the franchise guys that we're talking about. But he was a star that won. Give him credit. Like here's the thing: a star. There's a star that like Karl Anthony Towns has been, I guess, a star, but he hasn't won anything. Julius Randle took this team into the playoffs, and they gave the Hawks a little bit of a run there. So I feel like Julius Randle has proven more than a lot of other guys that we talk about, like put up numbers for crappy teams. Okay. Well, no. Next guy up that they're touting, they're really hoping is going to take a step up is Barrett. Yeah. He's one of their keys this year. Yep. They need Barrett to play. If you can't make shots, he's got to be able to make shots, because in this league now, you're going to play Derrick Rose or Kemba at the point. So RJ Barrett is not a point guard, and you really want to play him off the ball, ideally. I mean, he's good with the ball in his hands. He makes good decisions. But ultimately, you're going to have to be a big wing in this league. Well, what do big wings do in this league right now, Bob? You got to be able to shoot the ball. Got to shoot the ball. Right. But they think he's worked hard. They keep citing his work ethic. They keep thinking, so they're counting on that. But they do have a guy who can shoot, we know unquestionably, in Fournier. Yes. The question that being raised in New York is that they have substituted a defensive-oriented forward in Reggie Bullock with Fournier. And Bullock could shoot it too. He's not going to be guarding you too much, Right. And Bullock could still shoot it. Maybe not quite as well as Fournier, although I put him, I don't know what their numbers say over the course of their careers. My guess is Fournier's numbers are better. I still think Reggie Bullock's a hell of a shooter, going back to when I first saw him when he was young. I didn't mean to imply he can't shoot, but he's a better defender than Fournier. Totally. That's what I want to say. Totally. Yeah. Fournier is a average defender at best. Yeah. At best. So, again, I think the Knicks are intriguing. I give him credit because I killed the hire of Leon Rose as GM at Worldwide West. I crushed it. And the only thing I'll say is, the Randall move really helped. And last year was a different year also. As we know, in COVID times, some different interesting things happen. The Knicks were probably able to take advantage of it more than most franchises. We'll see what they do this year. If they can, now there are expectations. There were none last year.
Right.
None. So what do they do this year when I think the East is better top to bottom? The top 8 teams in the East are no joke, right? I mean, we haven't even talked about Charlotte.
No, we haven't.
Charlotte's pretty good. I mean, they're young. They got LaMelo, who's been better than anybody thought for the most part. Miles Bridges has been good. I mean, there's a lot of good teams in the East. Isn't what it used to be. Like the East for so long, I felt like, Bob, was just like the laughing stock for the most part.
It was everything cyclical, and then no question the West dominated without any question. But the East has gotten much more competitive. And so one other guy that is always a topic of conversation in New York is Mitchell Robinson.
And I've never been a huge I'm a fan of his talent. I've never trusted Mitchell Robinson.
Well, right. He has not, he's given them flashes. Right. He's a tease. He's been a tease. I think that's a fair way to put it. And they need him, and they want him to be more than just a tease now, because they got a veteran backup now with our local boy makes good Nerlens.
Yeah, Nerlens has been good there. He's been good, and I mean, listen, there are, as good as the East is, there are still some teams that are, not very good. We saw one of them against the Celtics in their first preseason game. The Orlando Magic are not good at all. The Wizards are not very good, are not going to be good. And Detroit's going to stink this year. I mean, those are 3 teams that are like bottom 3 to me in the NBA. So like in Cleveland's not there. So you really have 4 teams that I think you can pencil in at the bottom. Another team we haven't mentioned when talking about the East is the Chicago Bulls, Bob. Much better. Billy Donovan, he adds Lonzo Ball. He adds DeMar DeRozan.
Yes.
To Zach LaVine. So you've got DeRozan's not really an all-star anymore, but like a good top 50 player in the NBA. Lonzo's shot's better, and we know what he can be. Now, when you just to me, you should just put the ball in his hands. Like, I hope Billy Donovan understands what New Orleans didn't with Lonzo. Just give him the damn ball and let him be a magician with it.
Why would you get him if you're not going to give him the ball? I mean,
I think they will. I think Billy's smart enough. I haven't talked to him, but my guess is that's how he'll utilize them. So, all right. So you got 4 teams at the bottom, and then I think you're fighting for the other spots. I mean, we know Milwaukee's going to be towards the top. We know Brooklyn, unless 2 of the 3 guys get hurt, they're going to be towards the top. I think Philly's going to find a way, even without Ben Simmons, and they'll get somebody else, to be towards the top. Where do your Boston Celtics fit into the equation here?
They are a mystery guest of sorts because the unknown factor is the coach. I'll say that I have never, and I always say, be judicious with the use of the words always and never. I've been watching this league now up close and personal since 1969, and I have never ever heard a coach praised so highly as a rookie by the outside world. So I'm dazzled by what everybody thinks of him. This isn't internal hype. This is external hype for Ime Udoka. But, he's a rookie coach. And he's well known to the NBA people. He's well known to a couple of guys on his team because he's coached them in other circumstances. But, wow, what effect he's going to have on them is going to be as important to me as any individual player thing right now. So that's why it's hard for me to predict.
But I'm not letting you off the hook. I'm not letting you off.
All right. I think they are. There's no reason why they shouldn't be an upper echelon team.
So, like, Are you telling me after Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly, Miami,
on that tier with Miami, on that tier, yeah, they can get to that.
They can be it with Miami, Philly?
That would be I think I think so. I think once again, there's a question about the point guard situation, and you know how I feel about. I love Marcus Smart. I know what he's saying, how he's talking. He wants the ball more. He says he's going to not take the crazy shots and and all that. I don't know. I'm really enthusiastic about the Tatum, the experience with the Olympics, the Tatum that we even saw on the opening night.
He looks bigger. He just looks bigger.
And the guy who is a rookie, what was the most distinguishing thing about his game as a rookie? That explosive first step to the basket. And he's got, he got the NBA being 3-point centric, he gotten away from it. Once again, I mentioned earlier about Antetokounmpo and the way he's now learned to calibrate his game. This is what Jason Tatum, he's got a range of skill. Yes, he can shoot the three, but he can do everything. He can do it, and he can even pass very, very well. It's just a question of figuring it all out. And at this point in the career, I think now the other thing that we talked about a lot last year was his on-court relationship with Brown and how they're going to calibrate that.
Right.
And once again, this is where Ime Udoka could maybe figure out how to do that. Oh, they're going to be intriguing. I mean, there's talent there for sure. Now, and the bench looks like it could be relatively deep, which
definitely
was
better.
Definitely better last year. The guy that I'm putting my eggs in the basket there that I've been a bit, intrigued with from the minute that I said, "Hey, got him! Oh boy!" and it's Nesmith.
They need him. They need Aaron Nesmith to space the floor. He's their best potential shooter. Like if he gets it going, other than Jason Tatum, I think Aaron Nesmith might be their best shooter on their team.
Well, remember he was drafted because he was a 52% 3-point shooter. Oh, by the way, in a competitive conference filled with athletes, the Southeastern Conference. And he shows up and he doesn't shoot that well, but it turns out he can defend at a higher level than you ever imagined.
Yep.
And then he started, I don't know, he gets that shot back, confidence, whatever. This is who knows what I'm enthusiastic. I'm a member of the fan club. I'll just put it that way. And maybe I'm being unrealistic, but I really think that he can be a key.
Well, it's funny. I mean, you look at these teams, and again, listen, I'm not ready to say that they're in the class of Milwaukee or Brooklyn or probably even Miami or Philly, depending on what they get for Ben Simmons. I think those four are probably at a different level. But when you look at like Atlanta, for instance, okay, they've got a superstar in Trae Young. Well, the Celtics have a guy who I think is better. I think I would take Jason Tatum. The only difference being Trae Young has the ball in his hands all the time. He can create for himself a little bit easier than Tatum, but Tatum's a much better defender. He's a better rebounder. He's a better all-around player than Trae Young. So I think you can match him there. And then Atlanta's got a bunch of really good, they're deeper. They're deeper with overall talent, but the Celtics have listen, if you're picking, you're going Jason Tatum 1, Trae Young 2, and like, it's not even close. Like Jaylen Brown is clear number 3. So like you said, the key for the Celtics is point guard play and the bench. That's point it.
Yeah, no, I mean, where are they going to get the Schrader's? You go look at his career record, and he's in some ways he's better than you think. Then you say, why is he here? Because it didn't work out in the end in LA. And
he's here because frankly, I don't know if he's fit in where he's been. I don't know, what does Dennis Schroeder do so well? Like he's fast, he can push the ball. He's not a shooter as a point guard, not a great shooter. And then, as I've told you, the knock on him when you talk to people throughout the league is he has not been like an A+ teammate. Mm.
So there's a little Patrick Beverley in his game at the defensive end, which we
not consistently. He can be a dog. He can. He's not consistent.
Notice how I phrased that very cautiously.
Exactly.
There's a little dabble. There's a dollop. There's a dollop of Patrick Beverley. It's available to tap into at times. Okay, if you can persuade him that would be a useful way to spend your time on the floor. No, he's intriguing. I don't know I don't know. And I think that Pritchard's going to be a solid NBA.
I don't know how much he plays.
10 or 12-year guy that he'll probably play for 4 teams. Yeah, he'll be an adequate. But and every once in a while he'll get hot. I mean, I like him. I like having him around. I think teams are always he's going to have a career of being having a good to have around guy.
I mean, at least your bench now has guys like real guy, Josh Richardson, Cantor, Robert Williams or Horford, whatever you're going to do there, right? I mean, maybe you play them both together. I don't know if that's the best way to play these days. If you're going to play Allen, against certain teams, you might be able to do that. But I think ultimately you just look at it and you say, if Schroeder coming off the bench, you've got guys that have done something in the league rather than Carson Edwards, Shemi Ojale, Grant Williams, a bunch of these guys that hadn't done anything.
What about Hernan Gomez?
Yeah, I mean, Hernan Gomez will help. Absolutely.
I mean, he could be at least as good as Daniel Tice at his best, right? He could be that good.
Yeah, I mean, Tice was good at the end. Tice was good.
Well, that would be hard if he can replicate Daniel Tice.
Oh, yeah, they'd be ecstatic. They'd be ecstatic if he can give some of those intangibles at least. But I think Ime Udoka certainly inherits a team that has more depth. The question is, again, and Kemba wasn't Kemba. We know that for the most part for his tenure in Boston. But can Marcus Smart be a top? He's got to be like a top 5 or 6 point guard in the East. I mean, that's what he's got to be. Top 10, 12 point guard in the NBA, top 5 or 6 point guard in the East. And Tatum and Jaylen Brown have to stay healthy. Have to.
Yeah.
Because if you lose one of them, you're kind of a one-trick pony, and you're going to need somebody else to shoot the ball to space the court for Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Because ultimately, if you don't, and maybe Horford is sort of that guy a little bit. He can pull the big away at least.
If enthusiasm were production, you wouldn't have to worry about it. He's so happy to be back here.
Right. So happy.
We all know what he brings.
Well, he's happy to be back here when Kyrie's not here.
Yeah, well, we all know what he brings to the locker room and to the community. Quite frankly, it's great to have Al Horford on your team, and
he's the best. So, listen, there's no better locker room guy. He's not a vocal leader, kind of like Kemba. They're similar, I think, in some ways. They're not vocal leaders. They just do all the right things, and they're all about the right things. They're all about team and helping the young guys rather than other players that would come in and be jealous of some of the young guys. Kyrie. So, I love having Al Horford back. I don't know how much he's got left in the tank, Bob.
No, I don't know. And then I was a little, surprised when that announcement came. I wasn't thinking in any way in terms of having Al Horford back. So, so we'll see. But once again, I still maintain this. They're something of a mystery because of the coach. And
so again, have we got you down to like an actual what place they finish in the East this year?
All right. So, well, they're in that 5th or 6th, I guess.
Fifth or sixth?
Fifth. Well, 4. I can't. 5th in the 4-5 game. They'd be vying for the 4-5 game, 4-5 slot. That would be. I'd be very pleased with that. And
if they can get in the 4-5 spot, I agree. That would be that'd be a really good regular season. I'm picking them kind of where they were last year. I'm going to pick them somewhere in that 6-7 range.
All right.
I think they're going to be fighting. It's going to be close between these teams. The Atlantas, the Charlottes, the Indianas, the Chicagos, the New Yorks, the Bostons. Those are
Indiana. All right, Craig. What impact do you think Rick Carlisle will have on Indiana?
Significant. I mean, I think Rick's great for a while, and then there's an expiration date on Rick with the players these days, especially these days. But I think if Rick gets results, which I think he will, players buy in for a while, and then it's hard when you're dealing with Luka, right? Like that relationship is hard because these young players these days, most of them don't want to be coached that hard. A lot of them don't want to be. They say they do. But then when you actually do it and you go old school on them, like Carlisle probably tried to do, again, there's an expiration date on it.
How about, by the way, that being said, how about our young guys saying they want to be coached hard?
Well, going from Brad, I think they probably do. I think they do because Brad's not – Brad, and I don't know if coached hard is the right word because I think Brad coached them hard. I just don't think what Brad did was challenge them verbally. I don't think that's not Brad's MO. He's not going to challenge them and go. Like, I think they think they want that again until it happens. And then they'll see, because like Jason Tatum had it with Mike Krzyzewski. It was a while ago, but he had it in college. It's obviously very different in the NBA. Jaylen Brown, again, these guys have been used to Brad Stevens. And honestly, it's kind of a walk in the park compared to a lot of guys that coach in the NBA. Brad Stevens, as we've talked about, one of the best human beings in the world. Does that work for everybody? No, but I kind of rather have that than the polar opposite, which is a complete asshole.
Oh, of course.
People like crap.
Of course. I mean, no argument there. So, well, anyway, the Ime factor is very much in the forefront of how the Celtics are going to be. And I repeat, he comes in with glowing praise from the rest of the world. I hope the fans don't expect him to enter the Garden opening night by having walked across the Charles from Cambridge, and that's that's the only thing worries me a little about the fan reaction, what they expect. I don't know what they expect, but I just hope they don't expect that they're going to suddenly vault to the top of the heap. But anyway, I'm very curious and very enthusiastic.
Right, you got 4 or 5 in the East. I got probably 6, 7 in the East at the end of the day. There you have it. Expectations, predictions for your Boston Celtics, and make sure you tune in every single week to the Ryan and Goodman podcast, wherever you watch, wherever you listen to your pods, and we'll see you next week.